Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and thanks for joining me for Facebook Live. Got a brand new series we're going to start here, and we're talking about the art of blending. And this today is essentially Bonus Parenting 101, but it's kind of the introductory part of it. So I don't know how long it's going to last, but we'll see. But here's a great way for us to start. If you have a pencil, this is a great verse to write down. Proverbs 3:13 through 15. It reads like this: Joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Now I want to tell you, this issue of blending a family requires more wisdom than just about anything I know of. I mean, it is hard, and and a lot of times we think it's going to be so fabulous to put two families together. I heard a psychologist years ago say that, if you're thinking about remarrying and there are kids in the home, she said it'd probably be better if you waited for all the kids to leave the home before you remarried. I thought, man, that's just a horrible piece of advice. But you know what? When you think about it, it really could be the best advice ever. And let me tell you why. Usually, blended families are bad ideas. Now, isn't that a horrible way to start? But it's true. Usually, they don't work very well because they're not done well. Now, if you lay the foundation and you do some things that I'm going to suggest, then I think you've got a good chance here. I have confessed so many mistakes. I have done so many things wrong that I also say this, and this could be arrogant, could be boastful, but I say, given all the things that I've said I've done wrong, it entitles me to be able to say that this is one thing that I've done right, or I've done well. And I don't know how I came to it. Maybe it was because of the great advice I had from John Townsend, Henry Cloud, Dr. Dave Stoop. Maybe it was some stuff that I just had in me, but I knew some things, and I want to pass those on to you. Because what we have in our blended family, all the kids, 5 of them, love each other, put into each other's lives, gives each other presents, love spending time with each other. And they love both parents. And so there's some things I've learned from that I want to share with you, and that's what we're going to do in this series. But we have to start with these statistics. First of all, kind of a general statistic, a foundational statistic, is that about 50% of first marriages end in divorce. Okay? So now, that may not be true. It may be closer to about 35%, but I'm just going to use it as a comparative percentage. And I'll say this, if 50% of first marriages end in divorce, then the comparable percentage is 67% in the second marriage. So we don't learn from our mistakes, we essentially learn our mistakes. And then 73% of third marriages fail. That's huge. And so what I'm saying is, not very many people are doing this well. And if you are stopping to watch this, you may end up knowing some stuff, being able to do some things that other people don't. Now let's see. Why would these statistics be so high? Why would the dissatisfaction rate be so great here in these blended families, these second marriages? Well, first of all, because it's probably too soon. People rush out of one relationship and they want to get right in to the next relationship. And so rather than having that separate time of healing where they could really work through some stuff, and then starting to date. They want to date very quickly. In fact, when a man divorces or dies, and the wife dies, I mean, it's really usually very fast that he remarries. And so we just have to say, generally, this can happen too soon. Next thing is, marriage is difficult as it is. Then you bring children into it, your own children. Make it more complicated. You have different views on how to be disciplined, or how they should be disciplined. Well, then, what if it's not just your children, but someone else's? Now the complication isn't just multiplied or added onto, it's multiplied. It's beyond anything you could ever dream. And so just putting two people together that have been married before can be two people that are hurt and hurting, two people that messed up the other one, maybe haven't learned anything. Then you bring in the kids. Maybe they haven't done a great job with their own kids. Now they've got to be a parent to these other children. All of this feeds in to tension, conflict, and oftentimes very few skills in conflict resolution. So we end up in big trouble. Now, it's really common for people to say that, for the kids' sake, we're going to do this. In other words, we think we're going to pull these families together so the kids have security. And that really usually isn't the case. Usually it produces more insecurity. Usually the kids are more upset coming together. One group of kids have to go live in another family's house. The other kids usually have their house invaded. Or if you say, well, let's have a third house, let's sell both houses, third place. Then both people feel like they had to give up living the way they did. Sometimes I had my own room and now I've got a room. But so when we say for the kids' sake, usually it isn't very true. The kids would rather you stay separate because then in their mind there's still hope for reconciliation, and that's the dream, that mom and dad are going to get back together, and when they do get back together, everything is going to be great and wonderful beyond anything that you ever could imagine. So let's don't be saying that we're doing this for the sake of the kids. We're doing it for our sake. We're doing it for us, and many times we are doing it too quickly, or when it would be best not to do it all because we're a little bit selfish. Okay? Now, here's another reason that those statistics are so high, and that is entanglement with previous spouses. So not only, if you were just divorced with no kids, that other spouse there, that ex-spouse, would present some difficulties and complications. Maybe it's alimony issues, maybe it's control, lack of giving up, sometimes unhealthy alliance with your new spouse. That really can be very, very complicated. When the person hasn't fully grieved, forgiven, let go of the other person, they're dragging all that into this new relationship. So we have to be sure that the old spouse isn't going to deteriorate the current relationship so the new spouse never even has a chance. Now, we have to say this. Marriage, and especially a second marriage, it doesn't fix anything and it doesn't heal anything. In fact, the wounds get worse and more severe and maybe last a longer time the sooner we get together without making the adequate changes and getting the appropriate help, which is grieving the loss, grieving that loss, letting it go, accepting what I have left, accepting my reality, starting to forgive over here. And then once you do that, you go over here and you grieve, and then you accept, and you forgive. That has nothing to do with repairing your own character. So once you do all that, now I can really start to develop me and focus on me and my defects and my need to do things in a different way in this new marriage. So I just say this. Maybe it's time to consider that everything that you know about divorce, remarriage, children, maybe everything that you know isn't true. Maybe your brain has, to try to get some ease or some comfort, maybe it's twisted everything and you believe some things that aren't true because your brain is moving you toward what it perceives to be a more comfortable place. But it isn't going to be more comfortable. It's going to be a disaster if you don't do it right. So I think a great place for us to go is to say, okay, I'm going to try to rethink my life here. I'm going to try to look at the perceptions that I have. I'm going to look at some expectations that I have, and I'm going to consider if any of those are based in reality. Because I got to tell you, when I remarried after my previous wife was unfaithful and divorced me, went through a time of being single and then remarried, what I thought I was doing had nothing to do with what I was doing. And I'm not stupid. So we just have to be careful. And we have to take our time. And one of the most valuable things that we do, humble down. Don't assume that we know what needs to be known here. And then we can start to assemble some facts about the situation going forward. Now I say all that hoping that a person who's dating and has kids, hoping that you either haven't introduced your kids to the future spouse too soon, because if you did it too soon, then of course you probably have done that with others, and so they built up their hopes with other folks, and those haven't worked out. So they're going to be much more reluctant to give the new person the benefit of the doubt, because they're going to think that doesn't help and it's not going to work out. Well, that's kind of my introduction. It's kind of negative because it needs to be, because the numbers aren't very good. But if we look at those numbers and we deal with that reality, now we've got a chance to plan, to plow, to do everything appropriate we need to do before we blend it. Then we've got a great potential for great success in blending the family. But if we don't address these numbers, if we don't accept them, we've got no hope. And here's the thing. So many people get into a blended family out of guilt, shame, remorse, and the whole thing becomes some attempt to compensate for the divorce that took place. And so we've got to eliminate all of that. Now, Ron Deal of Family Life Today has some great books, and kind of the foundational book is The Smart Step Parent. And so you might want to grab a copy of that book. It's really helpful, and Ron's got some other books in that series. And I haven't written my book on bonus parenting, but if I did, all the stuff that I'm going to give you next time would be in it. Now, if you need some help, you can call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. There are people there, they want to talk to you, and they'll give you the best advice possible. Then when we get back next time, I'm going to give you, let me count them up, I'll give you 10, the top 10 things to know about being a parent as you blend it. And it comes from my experience of telling the two boys that Misty had that I didn't want to be their step-parent, their stepdad. Sounds like I was going to get stepped on or something. But I wanted to be a bonus to them. I wanted to be a benefit to them. And so everything that we do is going to be based on the desire of being a bonus, not replacing the other parent, being something more rather than less, as we deal with the reality of what some think is a hostage takeover when the family's blended. Thanks for joining me. If you need some help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Tune into the radio program, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. You can find it on Sirius XM or go to newlife.com. I'll see you next time.